Well, anyway, I think what convinced me is this guy kind of came from the same, he was a truck driver. And he said, man, I was just like you. I didn't do well in high school, but once I decided what I wanted to do, it became easy. And after talking to him for that amount of time, I kind of just, that just convinced me. And I went back and I did what I needed to do with Frank's encouragement. Eventually, ended up coming down to life at Brunauer. My thought was I was going to go to Cleveland.
Wow.
And Frank convinced me to go to life. And I remember Frank saying, "This was good, man." Of course, he did the practical part of it. Was we're in the South, you really don't want to be in the Midwest, and during the quarter system, I like that. It's gonna, because Frank was he was a big time student, man. He knew everything about it. Smart kid, and so he wanted to do that. But then the other thing he said, and then you see the guy in the pamphlet. He's talking about Sid Williams. He goes, yeah, I'd follow that guy anywhere.
Awesome.
Like, Frank.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, my question to you is this, because when I think of Michael Abbatinozzi, I think of motion palpation. Yeah. So, the 8-point check, I mean, was that what you gravitated towards as a student, or because I have a neuro association with you in Mopal?
Yeah.
Is that am I making the right connection? Help me out. Help me understand your history and where you migrated and.
Yeah, I did. I think I've always noticed in chiropractic, the students tend to gravitate towards the techniques that are, really who they are, or make sense to who they are, and so that was part of it, and. I remember when I first started, because you're trying to feel everything out, and you're listening to everybody, and you're trying to see who's giving you the best advice. And there were people like Skip Lance, who was my biochem teacher, is a really cool, interesting guy, guy I respected. And then a few other instructors I had that kept mentioning go to the Motion Palpation Club. I think another one was Yoda. You remember Yoda? And I don't know if he was an instructor, but he spoke at one of our classes, and I kept hearing that come up. And I wanted to commit to, one club. And so my idea was I was going to go to Motion and do that for a while and get good at the, psychomotor skills, and then maybe, jump into the Gonstead Club. But I got so into the Motion Club, and it was the whole ball of wax, because they were teaching adjusting as well and everything, that I just ended up sticking with that and became an officer, and actually started teaching it, and it was a great experience. I think the clubs are one of the better experiences of life.
I agree.
And I think too there was a couple of guys in the club that were my teachers, Mark Schwartz and Scott Shelby, that were just so dynamic and so incredible with philosophy, adjusting, knowledge, and they were kind of different types. And there was another guy, Howie, as well, Klein, and they just did a fantastic job with the club. And I think, I just liked being around those guys, because they were just so, into chiropractic. And Mark was probably still to this day, I remember him at school, he was one of the best adjusters to this day. And he went out and had a phenomenal practice. He was doing over 500 a week, and he was such a good adjuster. His body wore down, because he was a little guy, and he was tight with Reggie Gold too. I know, he taught Ferrari and Gold for quite a while. But those were some of the people that really, I think, they kept me involved in the club, and they approached me to be an officer and that type of thing. Yeah.
What was your progression after Motion? I'm curious about how you came to where you are today. The guy that I know so well.
That's a great question. I practiced probably pretty much motion palpation style diversified adjusting for about the first, let's say, 5 years, in practice. That was my type of practice, and I was always looking for ways to do better work, or just take the practice members a little further along, because it was very frustrating to me to adjust people, and people would get healthier, get better, get well, and later on you may see them come back in, or even if they were continuing care, they just seemed to get to a certain level, and then they didn't progress past then. Or sometimes, if you know, the people that didn't stick with regular care, they'd come back with the same type things going on. So you know, that kind of led me into looking into more of you know, the muscular component and nutrition, and I did little bits with that. But you know, I always said that, you know, there's got to be a way to tap into the nervous system to get better results without doing, you know, hammer and nails type of work all the time. And just at that time, my friend Jay Liss was getting into network, and didn't know much about it, but he gave me a set of notes, and he was very excited about it. You know, Jay, when he gets excited about something, gave me a set of notes, and I read those notes, and I go, wow, man, this is what I've been looking for. You know, this is, you know, just kind of just what I said. I mean, you know, and so I you know, didn't get into it right away, but started checking it out. He brought me to I think I went to a level 1 seminar, and got into it more and more. And I think at that time, the next influence was probably you, you know, where Jay introduced me to you, and you were doing network at the time. You had the house in Roswell, and as I got more into it, into network, and I remember, geez, I probably did, I don't know, I could have done anywhere from 9 to a dozen seminars in 1 year, because, you know, when I get into something, I really delve into it, you know me, and I kept going, and I wasn't, you know, I got to a certain place with it where, you know, I felt like I wasn't progressing. I kept going to seminars to try to learn, because it's very difficult for me, because I practice in such a different way, to get into the whole, you know, it was a different way of doing things, a different feel, a different things you look at, different parameters. And Jay said, well, you know, come to Schmecker's class. You know, I go, well, you know, is it going to be network? He goes, yeah, it's all, you know, you know, you'll learn all about network through that. So I kind of went to get better at what I was already doing, the network, but I loved the way that you explained things so much, and, you know, it just made so much sense that I ended up getting more and more into, you know, what you were doing, which was your own work at the time. It actually wasn't network, but how you kind of came to the same point where you branched off and were doing different things at the time. So, and of course, you know what happened from there. I got so into it, I ended up teaching your work for a while, which was a great way to learn it. And, you know, I think when you teach is when you learn. You know that you know once you're teaching it.
Absolutely.